Well, good evening, everyone. Really exciting to be here with you. This is the first one of these I've done, and I'm hoping that maybe there may be others that I can do, because this is going to be very much focused on your own development. So it's really interesting for me to see in the chat that there's quite a few of you who've got coaching experience and are doing coaching as part of your work. So I'm hoping there will be things in here that will be useful for you to use with your team and in your coaching practice at work. But it's very much focused tonight on applying coaching principles and the essence of coaching, as I see it, to our own personal development. So I've been coaching for about 14 years now. And when I was thinking about what I would do for this session, I was thinking I'd really like to give people tools that they can actually use. But because I can't see you and interact with you, and because you're a huge group and not a tiny little group, where I normally work with groups of up to about 12 people when I'm doing group coaching, I was thinking, how can I do this? And I was thinking space for others, because we've established that's what coaching is about. It's about helping somebody else to find their own best solutions by thinking in a different way. And Nancy Klein's book, Time to Think, is a brilliant example of taking what's most important about coaching, which I think is listening, and bringing a whole new depth to it. So I would highly recommend Nancy Klein's book, Time to Think. And she says the most important thing we can do to help another human solve a problem is to give them our undivided attention. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of somebody who is trained by Nancy Klein or trained in her methods, you will understand that actually being listened to in this way is incredibly powerful. It's extremely simple as an idea that all you have to do is listen. It's incredibly difficult to actually do, especially for us clinicians, where, as I've said, we're trained diagnosticians and we have to work at pace. I'm an emergency physician by background, and I have a very rapid, as we all do who work at the front door, pattern recognition bit in my brain, where within seconds, usually we can think, okay, I know what the problem is here. Here's the solution, move on, bring me another problem. And actually coaching is completely different from that, completely different. And Nancy also says everything we do depends for its quality on the thinking that we do first. Let's think about levels of listening. So level 1 listening is what I suspect most of us have done for most of our interactions today. Level 1 listening is the way that we listen when we are working. Usually it's the diagnosing level of listening, because you're looking for cues, you're listening for cues, and you are going to probably cut across a long history, and you're going to ask questions to drill down onto what the answer is. Socially, when we're listening, we're usually doing level 1 listening, because people are telling us about the holiday that they'd had, and then we think, oh yeah, I went there in 2010, and I wonder if this person knows this place, or I wonder if they've got a recommendation for me because I want to go there next year. So level 1 listening is all the time. So if I think about a time when I had a problem that I wanted to change to do with a stimulus and response, when I was working in the emergency department, and I had young children, Tuesday evenings were absolutely hideous. I absolutely hated them. I would pick the children up late after a clinical shift of I'd have been at the hospital for about 12 hours. I'd pick the children up from my mother's, where they would have been fed, but they would have been ratty and miserable and tired. And I was double ratty, double miserable and double tired. And I'd have to go home. They'd tell me they were hungry because my mother hadn't given them enough to eat. And my husband still wasn't home from his work as a GP. And so I'd have to make them food, then I'd have to make us food. And then I knew I was getting up early the next morning to do another clinical shift. I absolutely hated Tuesday nights. And I couldn't think of a way around it, because that nothing could change. I had to do those 2 clinical days in a row. My husband still had to work clinical day that day, and I was jolly lucky to have my mother there to help with the children. And I couldn't work out what to do, because I was horrible on a Tuesday night. And my children knew, in the way young children just know, they just poke you very gently and they get a fabulous response. Well, they would poke me very gently and they would get a horrible response, a really quite dramatic and fabulous response. And I felt guilty and I felt sad about it, really. And I wasn't quite sure what to do. And I did some reading and I did some thinking, and I decided to try mindfulness, which in those days was not anywhere near as well known as it is now. And maybe some of you will be thinking, oh, mindfulness, I know I've heard this so many billion times. I'm not sure that this is going to particularly help. I wouldn't have thought so either, actually. But what I found in my own experience, and also from many people that I've coached and encouraged to do this, is that a really small dose of mindfulness on a regular basis, and I'm talking just a few minutes on most days for a little while, can make a massive difference to your perception of your space. And so what it does for me, what it did for me, was that it allowed me to be more present in the moment and to be more aware. And then with that awareness, I found that opening up was a space, a perceptible space between the stimulus of my children winding me up and poking me and the choice of my response. And this was really, really noticeable for me. And I know now, and I don't practice mindfulness all the time, but I know that there are certain times when I need to, and I don't need to do very much in order to get a noticeable difference. My favorite mindfulness you need to put more weight into your left foot as you come forward, hit the ball. I want you to contact the ball out in front. You're contacting it too far back at the moment, and I want you to start your take back of your arm before the ball comes over the net. Oh, and also I want you to follow through and make sure that the racket ends over your left shoulder. So you're there thinking, right, okay, I've got to remember all of those things. And as the ball comes towards you, you're thinking, okay, racket back, racket back, racket back. Oh no, oh, I forgot to put my left foot forward. Oh no, I forgot to transfer my weight. And you think, okay, I'll try harder the next time. You're coaching yourself all the time, telling yourself what to do. When your coach isn't there, you're practicing, you're doing this again. So you're telling yourself what to do, you're instructing yourself, and almost certainly there will be a critical narrative going on at the same time of, oh, you're so useless, you're so hopeless. Why can't you? Why can't you? Come on. And goodness knows what else. Certainly we hear a lot of expletives on the tennis court as people really torture and torment themselves. So that's self one, and we're all very familiar with self one on the tennis court or in any other walk of life, actually. Self two is your subconscious that you access when you're in flow, relaxing and just letting things happen. So if I remember a time, so I'm a hopeless skier because I am very nervous about falling over and twisting my knees. And so I'm very, very cautious. And as a result, I keep falling over. And then I made the amazing discovery of having a glass of wine at lunchtime and then skiing down the slope, and I just thought, wow, that's absolutely amazing. And what it had done was it had quieted my self one, and self two was allowed us to carry on. So self two is absolutely brilliant. Self two is the part of you that is able to take sensations, take what's coming in from your senses and adjust and learn. So if you think about when you learned to walk as a child, your parents didn't say to you, okay, right, very carefully lift up your left foot, bend your knee, take it forward, put it down. No, hang on, don't transfer your weight yet. You just learned by doing, and you didn't. Is really, really important. So first of all, how does account? What do you have to think about? You need to have a clear goal with a clear time frame. The first step needs to be absolutely tiny and scheduled and timed in. You must schedule planning and reflection time to revisit your goal and see how you're doing, because the chances are you won't have done very well, and then you need to get yourself back on track again, non-judgmentally. I was expecting that to happen, but I was also ready to get myself back on track. And you might find that you want to find an accountability partner if it's something that is going to be quite difficult to change. So in summary, to leave time for questions, then we thought about space, creating space to think on a micro scale and a macro scale, and some tools around that. Curiosity, how to improve your ability to notice what's really going on and what might be holding you back. awareness, how raising non-critical, non-judgmental awareness of what's going on for you, both internally and externally in a situation, can empower you to step out of autopilot and make active choices. And then finally, the importance of actually where the rubber hits the road, moving from intention to action, and including maintenance and accountability. I'm just going to finish on that. Please do get in touch if I can help in any way. And then here we have some of the books which I mentioned, all of which I would highly recommend. So thank you very much, and over to questions.